Join me, Mark Windows, for Windows on the World live every Sunday 9 to 11 p.m. GMT. Check out our archive and programme stream at windowsontheworld.net. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Windows on the World. I've been so busy doing shows lately, it's great. Really studying a lot of information and bringing together a lot of the things I've been talking about for years. And of course, this beneficial crisis that we're in at the moment has slightly focused minds. And in a way, that's quite a good thing, because I've known that this was coming for a while. But as I said before, I never thought they'd do it on the back of this virus, which is turning out to be more of a mind virus than anything else. And I often read through the comments on the videos that we do while we're still on YouTube. I don't know how long we're going to be there, because even David Icke's been taken off there recently, hasn't he? Lots of other people are disappearing as well. So please subscribe to us on Spreaker and also BitChute, because we have a bit of a problem with BitChute because not all our shows go on there. But I am getting someone to download our Wednesday shows which go out on YouTube. I have everything else backed up, but the radio shows that I do Tuesdays and Thursdays on Republic Broadcasting Network, which is run out of Austin, Texas, well, those are all backed up on the Republic Broadcasting Network news site. And you can see the archive, actually, if you've never heard these shows. But they're quite interesting. We have some very interesting guests on. And last week, I had two guests on there. I had John Waters, who is bringing a case with Gemma O'Doherty in Ireland to try and take down the draconian laws which are affecting all of our lives. There is a similar challenge being mounted in the UK, although I don't know as much about that. I know it's being put forward by some beneficial millionaire, and that's a good thing to have it challenged. But of course, he's going to get labelled as far right, and he's going to be full of hate and all the rest of it. We're going to be talking about that tonight as well, because the word salads of the globalist puppets are starting to run a bit dry, aren't they? They don't seem to have much in their armoury. So we're going to be talking about that mimetic warfare. And yes, I did a couple of shows this week with John Waters. I did Wednesday. We were doing a live stream on YouTube, and that's very interesting, actually, because we talked about the way that society's been re-engineered, and it's been re-engineered effectively within the past 10 to 15 years, and we're going to get into why that is tonight, because a lot of it's to do with the big society through David Cameron in America. They had Obama's army when all the change agents started appearing, the totalitarian new system which masquerades under something called communitarianism, which was actually coined in 1848 by John Goodwin Barnby, who was actually a communist, and it was interpreted at the time as meaning ideas of a communist nature. In 1909, it was rebranded to mean referring to a community. And that's what we have now, the global community. No one will be left behind, from global to local. Even dumb puppets like Lady Gaga are not immune to the word salad. We're going to be getting into that a bit tonight as well. But do listen to those shows on Tuesday and Thursday if you're around. It's 8 p.m. UK time, Republic Broadcasting Network. There seems to be several chat rooms at the moment, and we have one run out of the UK, and I think there's another one in America. I'm trying to sort that out at the moment because I didn't even know about them, actually. And yes, that's great to see a few people in chat. Hello, Monthly. And I'm trying to connect, actually. I often have this trouble when I go on air. I think it's back now, yes. Hopefully, yes, we can see that there's a couple of people in there. But most people seem to listen to our Wednesday shows, actually, the live shows. They seem to do catch-up on the radio show, which is fine. But the idea of going on Spreaker was that more people would gravitate to Spreaker, but we still get thousands and thousands on YouTube. We'd rather get thousands and thousands on Spreaker. So do go to Windows on the World live shows page and subscribe to us on Spreaker, because I don't know how long we're going to be on YouTube. Yes, I like reading the comments on our videos. Well, as I just said, while the YouTube channel is still there, they often have great links and information, so thanks for all that. Although on Wednesday we had to get rid of a few very obvious trolls who were spouting hatred against John Waters. And we had a really good chat. Do listen to that one with myself and John Waters, which is on Wednesday on Windows on the World. And it's quite a long thing. It's nearly 2 hours, but there's some great points there. And I think it's interesting because John is from the sort of old-fashioned left, and he's still got this integrity and love of his country, which really comes through. And that is, of course, the opposite to what the globalists want. There's a traitor in every government department. Yeah, no one will be left behind. But yeah, looking at the comments the other day, there's a lady called Marianina who just posted a very simple one-sentence kind of statement. And it said, "We have been effed over good and proper, and most people aren't even aware." Now, that is what I've been talking about for years. That is what all of this infiltration of change agents and the sustainable development plans and the mentoring of people into this new paradigm, their words, not mine, was all about. In other words, yes, we have been effed over good and proper, and most people, in fact, nearly all people, are completely unaware of it. So this statement sums up everything in one simple sentence. The awareness of anything outside the imposed reality has been removed. This has not been done through enforcement, but basically through infiltration and change. The word used by all those who use this kind of restricted vocabulary, the word they use is change. The word used by all those who are enforcing the new totalitarianism is change. The question never answered is what that change is going to be. And I think we can see what that change actually is in the current beneficial crisis. That change is the removal of all your inalienable rights, debt servitude, the destruction of your financial independence, dependence on the state, and restriction of all movement, and basically the end of ownership. That's what this is about. So the change is all about steering, psychological nudging to get the population to agree to restrictions and to repeat things which are against their interest, but for what is called the common good. Now, the common good isn't for the good of you. It's for the common good as perceived by the whole of society. It's an illusion. The common good is an illusion which has been created so that the public don't know what's going on, but they're told it's for the common good. Yes, collectivism is the most successful psychological weapon. This is done through the belief in fear of ridicule and repetition. Basically, you are demonized if you're outside the narrow corridor of accepted opinion. The new language, buried inside the old language, is weaponized and extremely limited. Limited word salads are used by all of the totalitarians imposing this new draconian system upon you. It is in effect mimetic warfare. The best propaganda wins, or the biggest lie, constantly repeated and backed up with false arguments, controls the majority narrative. And that is a very important point. Once this accepted corridor of opinion is established, then everything outside it becomes unacceptable, selfish, or a conspiracy theory. Have you noticed the amount of times the public are going, "You're selfish going out. You're selfish. You're spreading the disease." One indoctrinated change agent copper even said, "You're killing people." Someone's walking down the road and now they're killing people. That's subversion. That's ideological subversion. That is where it hits rock bottom. And we are absolutely bereft of any natural law. That's what happens when law enforcers turn into drones. Artificial intelligence robots programmed with a word salad. How did this happen? How did it happen? Well, from the beginning of the century, the use of psychological steering, or in reality psychological warfare, has been furthered through all media and all education. And we've done many shows on this. Please go back into the archive, because what I'm doing here it is for the common good. It is for the public benefit. Yes, basically, it's an archive of information which is quite dense. if you go back into those old shows, they're there for a reason. They're a library. They're a library of information which you can put on in the background and which will help to kind of help other people understand what's going on. I'm not necessarily talking about you, the listener. I mean, they're great to pass on. And this is a very encouraging thing because I built it up like a reference library. They're not just kind of shows that are time-bound. I mean, some of the ones on the American station probably are a little bit, but we generally get into a bigger picture. And what I'm doing with those American shows, just as a side issue, is I'm not assuming any knowledge. I'm doing it as though they're an audience who don't know what I'm talking about, which is actually how commercial radio goes about things, but without the kind of good cop, bad cop, false paradigm, false arguments and lies of commercial radio. So that's what I'm trying to do with that anyway. But yes, Darwinian evolution and the following of social Darwinists. These are the biological robots. They were themselves biological robots, so they have created the new biological robots. They introduced psychology and the belief that their fellow biological robots were not capable of anything outstanding because evolution did not have any need for anything outstanding. This was their belief. If you look at what Darwin believed, Galton, what they believed that we don't develop anything which is outside of the normal day-to-day necessary function, which is obviously rubbish. So anything of a higher power is completely destroyed by this system, and that is why, because these idiots were in charge of it. These promoted useful idiots like Darwin, and there's quite a few more as well. I've been into the Tavistock Institute quite a lot, but we are going to mention it tonight. Yes, Darwinian evolution and the following social Darwinists created these biological robots. Yes, all the creative power and potential is killed off by this new paradigm. Yes, their words, not mine. This in some ways is a custodial assumption. Well, I'd say in every way it's a custodial assumption. Having talked to some of these people, these descendants of these social Darwinists, you find out something very interesting. They have an absolute belief that they're right, which has kept them in the place that they are. However, what's happened is, obviously, it's been usurped by globalism. Think global, act local. We're going to get into that tonight. So basically, these not-so-bright social psychologists thrive on deception and projection of their own self-imposed limitations. I think that's what I was trying to say there. These charlatans became the new priesthood, elevated and funded, locked in their ivory towers, such as the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations and the steering groups, think tanks, the round table groups. All of these people, we're talking going back to Milner and Cecil Rhodes. Look at all this stuff. All of these people were thinking in a particular way. And what's interesting about them is they were actually inherently racist. They were super judgmental and they were elitist. And what came out of that is basically communitarianism, which is the new kind of interpretation of totalitarianism. In other words, the elite want to stay elite because they want to keep their instruction upon the masses going, but they don't want anybody else to be equal. So there's no equity. There is no law in their belief system. There is no natural law. If there's no natural law, there is no law. End of story. So Sigmund Freud, Wilhelm Wundt, G. Stanley Hall, John Dewey and their psychological army removed the soul and studied the race as creatures in need of steering and long-term direction. Then, of course, we had all of the people who followed them, too numerous to mention. The behavioural sciences are the vehicle. So the behavioural sciences are the vehicle for this new totalitarianism. Most recently, the overeducated, indoctrinated but unintelligent Prime Minister and all-round Chancellor Boris Johnson stated in his pre-prepared word salad that the population of the UK would have to undergo significant behavioural change in response to COVID-19. which has become a successful outcome of propaganda for the endgame, bringing in the new system. And the new system is here. The new system is tyranny. It's absolutely the totalitarian depopulation agenda. And it is now in plain sight. Those who can't see it are victims of television and the media. It was in 2010, though, that another Chancellor, Prime Minister David Cameron, announced the big society. The new collectivism spread much faster than the current virus. It was, of course, not local, but global. Think global, act local, the useful tool of the new order. Recently, entertainer Lady Gaga lived up to her name whilst promoting the World Citizen Project, globalcitizen.org, that ridiculous virtue-signalling pile of crap concert that encouraged everybody to stay at home. Yet, the UN and World Health Organization asked Global Citizen to support their COVID-19 response by bringing the world together through music and inspiring everyone to take action. These are the words of the limited change agent. These are the hive mind standard vocabulary weapons. Limited words. It carries on with an exceptional group of artists. Global Citizen was launching One World together at home. Now that is the surveillance society in one, isn't it? We're all one, but we're all isolated inside our homes. We're not allowed out. We're not going out. You know why? Because if you go out, you could be killing people. So, through the internet, everyone is together at home, it said. They speak as one voice. One world in a restricted and desperately disconnected collectivity imposed by mind control and robotic, meaningless fake reality. The dreary agents of this agenda are living proof of the lack of spark and creativity I was talking about earlier on. The whole idea of the big society was open infiltration of all organisations and the obliteration of everything original or alternative. Have you noticed that? Is there anything original or alternative in your neighbourhood, or has it been wiped out? Well, if it hasn't been wiped out, change agents are at this very moment trying to make sure it is taken over and rebranded for the common good. Government deep state subversive think tank Demos, who are really into the big society, stated, "The new democracy will work with a mixture of government open infiltration and citizens groups taking direct action." Open infiltration, takeover of everything. It means if you have a little meeting like we did, change agents will try and destroy everything you are trying to do. They will, through the local press, malign you. They will spew hatred at you. These are entry level 2 change agents. We're going to get into that a bit later. Yes, the new democracy will work with a mixture of government open infiltration and citizens groups taking direct action. Citizens groups, oh yes, all of these NGOs. The epitome of that is the Extinction Rebellion death cult. Citizens groups taking direct action. They're not real citizens, of course. They're not you and me. They're the agents of change who've been mentored into the new paradigm. In the psychological society, all actions are directed and all leaders will be agents of change. This is why all alternatives have been stripped away. Isolate the target, then attack it, bring it into line with the hive. This is the method of psychological attack used against those perceived to be outside the big society opinion corridor. From the mentoring organisations creating change agents and environmental assassins, the targeting of entitled dimwits is well thought out. Everything has to be in line with the superstate. The steering is pretty much complete and its weapons are words, very limited words. The system for denying the facts which disprove the propaganda is to attack the person. The ad hominem attack, the logical fallacy, the false argument, anything but respond to the evidence. I suppose you voted Brexit. I suppose you think Trump's not sexist. I suppose you think Elvis lives on the dark side of the moon. These are the terms spouted out by the victims of television, the victims of propaganda, the victims of the government agents of change. The victims, that's what they are. They turn you into a victim. The victims of global governance turn you into a victim. Rewriting history, as if translation has not skewed reality enough. It has now resulted in wiping out history or the reality contained in it. That's been done very successfully. Talked about that with John Waters in that show. In actual fact, we were talking about how everything from 15 or 20 years ago is now a sort of not just, well, let's put it this way. It's not just a distant memory. It's actually like from another universe, as though it never existed in this reality. That's how much things have changed. The acceleration of the global corporation based on robotic serfdom has been achieved through COVID-19. The end game is undoubtedly here. And that's why I've been getting into this idea of how many percentage of the population are going to carry on into, yes, the real new paradigm. Not the new paradigm created by the globalists. That's the old paradigm now. I'm talking about the new one. Yeah, but the truth has all but been extinguished, really, in the public. But it cannot be wiped out, as it will never stop resurfacing. The truth is like a fountain, and that fountain will never stop. That fountain is there. In fact, I'd like to give you a quote. I think I said it the other week. It's a very good quote. It's from, I think, the Book of Enoch. Here it is. The fountain of righteousness is inexhaustible. Of course it is, because righteousness is still there. It can never be wiped out. The fountain of righteousness is inexhaustible, and around it are many fountains of wisdom, and the thirsty drink of them, and are filled with wisdom, and their dwellings are with the righteous and the holy and the elect. So there you go. That's good news, isn't it? We've got God on our side. Phew, blimey. I thought the evil doers were winning for a minute. The public have become the new Stasi. Basically, that's what's happened. They are part of the problem. This has been reported in local newspapers. One of them stated that 194,000 snitches have been calling the police and gleefully turning in their neighbours for going out of the house and getting some sunshine. Yes. This is an impossible task for the change agents to wipe out truth. Their statements are empty and they have no valid arguments. That is why there is panic to shut down everything outside the controlled narrative. And we can see that it's never been more obvious. The limited training of the change agent, the enforcer of societal norms, is subversive but simplistic. It cannot adapt. It can only attempt to control. And that's what this is all about. The change agent, the people who are unwittingly change agents, also have the same problem. It's all about fear, control. The public have become the new Stasi through the social engineering of COVID-19. They have embraced communitarianism, most of them subconsciously, through the imposed collectivism which fills every part of their reality. Turn on the BBC. It's all about collectivism, the common good, and a pack of lies. It is polarised by the change agents who have been defined as neoliberal or the new left. These terms are meaningless, and it is just totalitarianism dressed up in a word salad. So the new form of communist compliance is communitarianism, where no one is left behind, meaning all those with any remaining autonomy will be marginalised and attacked. It is tribal warfare, but there's only one tribe, one world and one vision. Voluntary servitude or volunteering is the new slavery. How can you say that? Well, I can. Why are you being so selfish? Well, I'm not. This is the response of the hive mind, those that have lost their minds. From the UN, the World Health Organization, to the community organisers and the smiling but vacant lobbyists and so-called middle-class Marxists, those Guardian-reading heaps of stinking but smug virtue-signalling effluent. Yeah, these are the gatekeepers. They are all gatekeepers. Everyone who uses their language is a gatekeeper. The dull surveillance police state of vibrant communities, the diverse monotonists, the empowered narcissists, giving their useless opinions on everything and claiming moral high ground through using minorities as hostages and human shields for their self-imposed prison. This is what's going on. They don't want the prison just for themselves, though. No one will be left behind. You will be attacked with their mindless ad hominems and false arguments until you conform to the psychological society, the New Age hive mind. We are all one. Infinite consciousness, the new paradigm shift. These terms are being used to bring you into the hive mind. They have been stripped of any philosophical or deeper meaning and are empty shells to contain collective mindlessness. The lostness of the mind. This is what the globalists were talking about in 1992. The fourth world wilderness. Now, the fourth world is beyond the first, second and third worlds. The first world was thought to be the industrialised West. The second world was Russia and all of its states. And the third world is Asia and Africa. And the fourth world is the wilderness of the mind. An endless Pangaea of monotony. The fourth world, the lostness of the mind, the borderless world, a concept which came from the billionaires who financed the climate change agenda, which captured millions of agents and willing dupes and forced them into voluntary servitude through the use of a religious concept of a forthcoming apocalypse. Climate change, climate emergency. It went from climate change to climate emergency. The apocalypse is not environmental. It is now your imminent destruction, the loss of everything and the imposition of an evil global tyranny on the back of COVID-19, the most successful psychological weapon ever devised, and a simple idea. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a virus. What I'm saying is, what is more dangerous is the mind virus. There is no pandemic, but there is a plandemic. By definition, what is going on is not a pandemic, even though they are trying to attribute every single death in hospital to COVID-19. This is a fraud, and it's being brought to you by those change agents, those second-tier change agents in public office who are running organisations like the National Health Service, getting their minions out front into the camera and doing dance routines, virtue signalling while they're killing the elderly. That's what it's all about. The apocalypse is not environmental, it is your imminent destruction. The beneficial crisis is the destruction of everything. The order will come from the chaos. The wilderness of the mind is a borderless world by banning travel and herding the masses into surveilled gulags. It's taken huge leaps recently and is now within the reach of the evil ones. There is no doubt about it. The fight back is necessary. The programming of acquiescence has been mostly successful. The fear campaigns have worked. The public are now spies and servants. There are pockets of resistance being monitored in real time by the World Economic Forum. Have a look at their strategic intelligence and COVID-19 intelligence parts of their website. Went over that with Vicky Davis on our RBN show on Thursday. Basically, they are rolling out your reality in real time. Well, it's the reality that they want for you. It's being rolled out in real time. And it's on that website. It's quite fascinating. But it ties into everything. The World Health Organization, Bill and Melinda Gates, Imperial College, the Johns Hopkins University. John Hopkins University, of course, was actually another extension of what came out the Tavistock Institute. We're talking about a global system of enforced compliance through a pack of lies here. That's all it is. Yes, there are those with the fire of truth in their bellies, those with righteous indignation, described as irresponsible and selfish by the cowering wretches stuck in front of their televisions and making the odd trip out. Remember the bog-roll virus? The bog-roll virus was predicted by Aboriginals in Australia. See our show Earth, End of Lockdown, with Stephen and Evan Strong. That's a very interesting show. And I think we are in the times where prophecy could be at least interesting. Yes, the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. That was a quote by Ludwig Wittgenstein, and it's very true. The limits of your language are the limits of your world, and your world is being limited by the language being imposed upon you. That is the essence of communitarianism. It is a warfare on your mind. It is a word salad which destroys your brain. The limits have never been more limited. The minds have never been so empty of truth and full of lies. The evil ones who wreaked havoc on the earth have returned with a vengeance. Oh yeah, it's getting biblical now, folks. The Freemasonic Lucifer spirit, the billionaire degenerates, the cursed of Canaan and their sons of Cain have remained behind the curtain, but if the television is turned off, they can be seen in the shadows. That's one I wrote earlier. I quite like that. Keep that one, I think. They made you lose your mind, but if you stop listening to their demonic repetition, sanity will return in quiet moments of contemplation. The empowered servants of the big lie will cower and vanish when the light of truth hits them, but it has to hit them with strength. The element of surprise is something they cannot deal with. We talked about this the other week. The way to usurp artificial intelligence is with real intelligence. Real intelligence is unpredictable. Real intelligence is creative, which is why the social Darwinists wanted to destroy creativity and intelligence. It doesn't have any use. What use have we for creativity and intelligence? It's not part of our day-to-day existence. Well, it's part of mine. I don't know about you, but it's part of mine. Drones need repetition. So does AI, the technocratic society. It depends on predicting outcomes. If outcomes are unpredictable, it all falls apart. The COVID-19 agenda has paved the way for the intended outcome of the big society, the communitarian agenda, depopulation or genocide. The doors are open. The elderly are already being put down. The real elders are being destroyed. Those holding the torch of reason and equity are being hounded by the spies, the agents and the enforcers. They could be your next door neighbours. The parasitic, poisonous but vacuous drones in public office and everywhere around you are ready and they are coming for you. Right, we're going to have a quick break here. I'll be back in a minute.
If you realise how deep the rabbit hole goes, I mean, the people coming out now, even in the entertainment business, saying, I sold my soul to the devil so I could be famous. You go, Jesus, yeah. And you look at people and you think, how did he get famous? He's crap. You know? And then you think, oh, he must have sold his soul to the devil. Oh, here's Wayne again. He's going to give us all that New World Order crap. And you think, oh, well, why am I wasting my time even mentioning it? You know, it's only in conversation. And they'd rather talk about football. And, you know, you think, oh, what a waste of space. You know, and it's, oh, Manchester United did this. And you think, what a load of crap. Who cares? You know, who cares about Manchester United and Manchester City? And then you look, you think, this is it. They're just programmed. That's going to be their life. You know, women will watch soaps and men will go to football, and then you'll get up in the morning, you'll go to work and you'll do this, and then you'll finish at 5 if you're lucky. You'll go home, you won't have time for your kids, you won't. And you think, but is this what we're born for? You know, just to be slaves, really. You're just slaves.
Join me, Mark Windows, for Windows on the World live every Sunday 9 to 11 p.m. GMT. Check out our archive and programme stream at windowsontheworld.net. Welcome back. That was actually Wayne Fontana, 60s pop star, an all-round brilliant bloke. I met him at the Bilderberg protest. The Bilderberg protest, I think it was 2012 or 2013, it was in Watford. And Goldman Sachs actually paid for the protest field, and they paid the police because the police were walking around pretty bored. And I started talking to one of them, and he said, very strange, this event, you know. He said, we're not being paid by Hertfordshire Police. We're being paid by Goldman Sachs. Well, that was interesting. And of course, that's the way they do it. The globalists need the anti-globalists to implement their agendas. So the anti-globalists become part of the globalists. That's how communitarianism works. I had a great chat with Wayne that day, and you can see it. It's called Wayne Fontana at Bilderberg, I think. And it's on an old channel of mine called Land of the Free. But we had a brilliant interview, and he told in great detail how he woke up to what was going on. And it was really through personal tragedy, as it often is, but also comedy, tragic comedy. And his stories are fantastic. And he actually did a gig in Kent, in Sheerness. So there's a little music hall in Sheerness. And they put on these 60s bands. And Wayne came down, or Glyn as his real name is. And we went for fish and chips. And he got up and he did his act. And after the show, there was a bloke there boring him. And he was talking about sort of how many people he'd met in the past. And that he'd been into Elvis's house. And I thought Wayne had fallen to sleep. But he was sweating profusely. And some lady came up to him and said, "Go and rescue him, Mark." So I went up to him and he'd collapsed in his seat and we had to call an ambulance and we had to take him to Medway Hospital and he recovered. And he said, "Well, you've actually restored my faith in humanity." And I said, "Well, that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? The chosen elect, the few of us who've got a brain cell left, have to look after each other." Anyway, less of the anecdotes and back to work. But as I was saying, the parasitic, poisonous but vacuous drones in public office and everywhere around you are ready and they are coming for you. They now have permission and they have it in writing, encased in law, in this COVID bill. The useful idiots in Parliament can no longer pretend they're in power. This is obvious. Of course they're not in power. The illusion is over. The gloves are off, and the population did not hear the bell and are not even out of their corner, and the first blows are being landed on them. They're cowering and defenceless, ready to give everything away just for a promise of a return to the new normal. Well, I'm afraid that's not good enough, because their normal is not my normal. My normal has inalienable rights. My normal is not communitarian. My normal is not for the common good, it's for the good of everybody. Think about that, big difference, yeah. So this is the paradigm shift you were sold as the Great Awakening. This is it. This is the Great Awakening they were talking about, the paradigm shift, the shift in consciousness. It was a shift away from consciousness into artificial intelligence, drone, hive mind, totalitarianism. Yes, the people who gave you hope have just relinquished it. The lies are all around you, but the truth is always there. It always was. It is a still, quiet voice drowned out by the slippery-tongued creatures all around you. And this invented crisis has actually exposed how infiltrated this country has become. Compare it to America. Look at those people there going, "We love America and we stand up for our rights." They stand up for their constitutional rights. And people call them far right. They call them selfish. They call them stupid. But when you listen to what they've got to say, they make sense. Well, that can't be right, can it? They can't be stupid if they're making sense. That's worth looking into. The identitarian terms and mimetic lies can be destroyed by a few truthful facts. It's not difficult. The post-truth world does not take well to truth and fact. It relies on the lies of the global governors, the new self-appointed, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement. It says, provide an architecture for addressing these challenges by fundamentally shifting the ways that societies produce, consume and operate. Let's take that apart. That means techno-slavery, the immunisation of all, the empowerment of women and girls, which means actually sterilisation and compliance to the new global system. This is all the destruction of all culture, all respect and common decency. This is the world of the global citizens, and the stars of their global citizens' agenda get their faces rubbed in the dirt. They rub the faces of their victims in the dirt. The lockdown, yes, the lockdown with Lady Gaga and Madonna, clueless retards, spouting illiterate crap, peppered with implanted phrases, empty words from empty shells. They are the end of civilization. You cannot argue with these retards as they have no argument, just empty rhetoric. Well, yeah, they are retards. It's not hate speak, it's just the sad truth. This is proved in their vacuous, empty statements around the current plandemic. No, the truth is not far right or hate. The intelligence services are limited in their psychological warfare, that's all. The narrative is limited. Where is the wisdom of the elders? Question mark. Well, The elders are getting genocided in hospitals, and this is just the practice run. The elders, as presented to the public, let's see what that means. What does that mean in the new paradigm? What does that mean in the age of chaos? Well, the elders, as presented to the public, are the council of elders, the 12 elders who spout their word salads about connection to Pachamama or Gaia, whilst hoovering up UN grant money on in their pathetic fancy dress costumes. The Council of Elders are a group of globalist pawns and communists, including Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was responsible for implementing the wishes of the globalist bankers in their sustainable development communist fake environmental program. This is your new paradigm, your consciousness shift, the ever-useful virtue signalling criminal and terrorist. Yes, you guessed it, or maybe you didn't, Nelson Mandela is amongst these spiritless and spineless pawns. This is the Global Action Plan. These are the best they have got, or the ones who are the most misguided and disingenuous. Useful idiots, hate-filled extremists. Let's use their word salads against them. Who would have thought that Richard Branson... Sorry, excuse me, I'm going to have to cough. When I saw that word, it made me sick. Who would have thought Richard Branson would be advising this shower of shit? Well, he is. Go to theelders.org, read it and weep. The idiotic virtue-signalling retard, yes, that is the correct term, Mary Robinson, the New Age Sustainable Development ego, who flies to New York to record UN-backed fake feminist global warming diversity bullshit podcasts when they could have been done over Zoom, StreamYard or Skype. Yeah, she flies to New York to record a half-an-hour pile of shit that no one listens to. There is no end to the hypocrisy of these dumb, grasping, narcissistic retards. Yes, they are retards. Look at the definition of retard. It's not somebody who has basically been unfortunate genetically. It means that they are retarded. We covered the word salads and vacuous tripe uttered by this crone in these podcasts on a previous show, and I just couldn't believe the banal crap that was coming out. They bring on the right sort of change agent who may in their elitist virtue signalling hypocrisy be described as diverse. There was a Filipino lady and an African lady, all mentored into their hive mind school of intolerance and bullshit through abusing the words diversity and empowerment. These are the people who are in charge of the public narrative. They are not the public. Because these idiots have never had a real job, they stick to their communitarian narrative, even when their guests could actually be very interesting. And that was the point. The ladies that they had on there were actually very interesting, and you could tell they'd had quite difficult lives, but they wanted to focus on the trivia, because these people have never done a bloody day's work in their life. Yeah, well, I'm having a bit of a rant against these globalists tonight. It's therapy, though, it's therapy. Yes, these people actually, given half the chance, would talk about the reality of their lives, or any kind of reality. And they'd be quite interesting if we had them on our show. But of course, the Council of Elders are rather different. Because these idiots have never had a real job, they do stick to this communitarian narrative. Basically, that's what it is. Have the public, the British public, been turned into spineless, lying, disingenuous, thoughtless creations of globalism? Question mark. It has been a relatively short programme in global governance terms. When the population have become the enemy, is the war won? When 200,000 people get reported by their neighbours for going out, does that mean tyranny has won? No, it just means that goodness is being suppressed. The elders state that they want a peaceful, just and sustainable world. The problem is, they don't want you in it. And that's the trick. It's about depopulation. They think they've got their noses in the trough. They think they can virtue signal to what they think are minorities. They think a lot of things. But the point is that their day will come. They will be judged. So, let's get back to these useful idiots, the elders. They state that they want a peaceful, just and sustainable world. Yes, the problem is they just don't want you in it. The painted-on grin of Nelson Mandela on their UN propaganda document would not convince anyone who is immune to the mind virus. The population have already been immunised against facts and truth through voluntary passivity and mindlessness through hypnotic memes and lies. Those that watch TV are under psychological attack and spiritual possession. The lies start on the cover of this document featuring the grinning skull himself. Yes, Nelson Mandela. This booklet, it says, this is a good example of the change agent. That's why I'm going into it here. This booklet sets how we, the elders, contribute to addressing some of the challenges of leadership, peace building, inequality, exclusion and injustice in a rapidly changing world. This means, of course, techno-slavery, technocratic slavery, sterilisation, rationing, infiltration and takeover of all assets and everything which affects the livelihood of all people. That's what they're talking about. A global takeover of everything, including thoughts, including the minds of all people, with this grinning skull, this terrorist, this useful idiot, Nelson Mandela, and all of the... Go and have a look at it, the elders, read it and weep. As I said, you've got Richard Branson advising this shower of shit. You couldn't make it up. As one template fits all and its deceptive word salads are universal, this is the world of the global change agent. Let's have a look at the Elders' Strategic Framework, 2018 to 2022. It was founded in 2007 by Nelson Mandela. Oh, really? Oh, really? No, I think he was put up to it somehow. We represent an independent voice. Really? That's interesting, isn't it? Not bound by the interests of any nation, government or institution, apart from the UN, of course, which is above all of them. We are committed to promoting the common interests of humanity and the universal human rights we all share. Well, these lot don't share them. They assume that they are above the human rights that you yourself have been given by them, which means poverty and death. Let's see what else the elders say in their mission statement. We will use our independence, collective experience and influence to work for peace, justice and human rights worldwide, which means, roughly translated, bought out, compromised and brainless puppets of bankers and corporations. Working both publicly and through private diplomacy, we will engage with global leaders and civil society at all levels to resolve conflict and address its root causes, to challenge injustice and to champion ethical leadership and good governance. Okay. Yes. Their vision. Our vision is a world where people live in peace, conscious of their common humanity and their shared responsibilities for each other, for the planet and for future generations. We envisage a world in which there is a universal respect for human rights, which means no rights, in which poverty has been eliminated, in which people are free from fear and oppression, are able to fulfil their true potential. Oh, really? Unless you want to be self-employed, or unless you want to think outside the box, unless you want to be outside of their disgusting little paradigm. Yes, their shared responsibilities to bow to the new system, where there is no natural law, no discretion, no tolerance, and no right to life. Those are the facts. They will eliminate poverty by eliminating populations. Your rights are only in proportion to how much of yourself and your mind you will give to them, and they want it all. There will be no more oppression when the oppressors are fully... Sorry. God, I think these word salad spouters are blocking my throat up. I actually want to be sick. Not really, I'm only joking, but I need to clear my throat. Yeah, there will be no more oppression when the oppressors are fully in charge. That's when they will end oppression, as there will be no one left to be oppressed. They will all be willingly under the control of the puppet masters of these tools of the global establishment. The likes of Mary Robinson will be blaming the patriarchy and the far right, whilst genociding the undesirables and sterilising girls through their empowering women programmes. These people are disgusting. These people are liars, they are cheats, they are fakes, they are brainless, and they need to be removed. Their deception is the epitome of evil. They will make basically they'll make your life a living hell while they absolve themselves of all responsibility through their empty words. Their communitarian word salads of diversity, empowerment and vibrant communities and all the rest of the shit that they speak. The puppet masters in reality have chosen their useful idiots well and know how to keep them subservient through privilege, which those who they wish to empower would never have dreamt of. We will never get near the privilege that these people have. To bring in a comparative extra dimension now, I'm going to go on a bit longer tonight because I've got to finish this. To bring in a comparative extra dimension. Now this is very relevant. Change of thought here, change of tack, but not change of subject. The Babylonians described 3 types of evil spirit, and you'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. I've not gone off on a mad, bizarre tangent. I really haven't, honestly. So the first of these types of spirit were ghosts, lost souls, really. These are just an interference in the field, those who could not or wished not to move on. The worst offenders in this category interfere by making their presence felt. They are in reality just a sad incarnation which has limited itself to a specific place through their limited awareness. They think small. Ghosts are very sad. Ghosts do no harm really, but they can be disruptive, especially the ghosts of children, poltergeists. I've encountered that quite a few times, but they tend to... I was in my friend's charity building, and apparently 2 children had died there, and they were playing with the blinds. How do I know it was them? Well, I'm pretty sure it was. They threw my laptop off the table, and I said, "Don't do that again." And they actually didn't. So ghosts and poltergeists aren't all bad, you know. The next level, though, let's get on to the serious level now, because you're going to get the comparison to this, to the change agents in a minute, and I think it's quite good. Well, I'm not being big-headed here, I just think it is. The next level are those possessed by demonic entities. These can be very dangerous to themselves and to others. The entities have great strength and can even attract other entities and directly attack their damaged hosts. They get pleasure from the fear, suffering and torment of their victims. They feed off fear. They feed off fear. It is their life energy. Their life force is by traumatizing other people or by getting them to take drugs. They enjoy the drugs. They enjoy the experiences of the people that they're invading and tormenting. These are demonic entities. They can cause their victims to open themselves up to other entities by damaging the psyches and taking them over. Even if you come into contact with people who are possessed, they can send entities to you. More entities will be attracted by those who are possessed, sometimes 2 or 3. They can jump into you. Now, this may sound a bit esoteric to some people, but I've been studying it a long time. Incidentally, if you're interested in what I'm saying here, I'm doing a show with Jerry Marzinski, the psychiatric practitioner who has worked with paranoid schizophrenics for 35 years and came to the conclusion that most of it is down to spiritual demonic possession. And we've done quite a few shows already. Jerry is a pioneer in this field, and I can say with some confidence that what he's experienced, I have experienced too. I have experienced the same attacks as Jerry's attacks, and we concur on a lot of things. It's fascinating stuff, so do join us on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Let's get back to this. Yes, they can cause their victims to open themselves up to other entities by damaging their psyches and taking them over. Possessed people are very dangerous and they're very powerful, and they usually find their way into high office if these entities are working within them for that reason. Sometimes these people are very dangerous. The third category are demons. These are powerful and malevolent. They attack through outside the person and can drive them to commit despicable acts. The only thing that can get rid of them is denying them power and driving them back into the hands of their overlords. Certain things work against them. The power of good. For instance, even biblical statements. Things like the 23rd Psalm. Jerry found this puzzlingly to actually get rid of them and to get them cowering away, because powerful good words and faith actually seem to frighten them, because these demons have overlords too, and they answer to them. Yeah, so there's 3 types now of those sort of entities in this Babylonian belief system, and I think it's very accurate actually. And there is a great book called Demons and Evil Spirits of Babylon, which was sent to me by Mike, emailed me this PDF, and it's very interesting, very esoteric in parts, but it goes back into the Sumerian text. And also, another interesting point I'm going to get to on into the next few weeks is the purity of the Aramaic language. It's fantastically interesting, and it means a lot of things to a lot of people, and it also means a lot of things in its vibrational efficiency. Very interesting language. Side issue. Now, I'm going to compare now those three types of entities to change agents. There are three types of complicit change agents, which are comparable in order of importance to these type of entities. The first are the low-level useful idiots, like hungry ghosts, ready to join in. They are willing. They are in reality lost souls, pitiful in some ways, but still enforcers of the global doctrine of deception. They are unwitting dupes, but they love their interference. These are the repeaters of lies, the local snitches and enforcers for the local global agenda. When they die, they'll probably become ghosts and haunt the community centres where they used their Delphi technique and their subverting of public opinion. There'll be nowhere else for them to go, and nobody will be left behind. Except them. They police themselves and others and have a limited knowledge and vocabulary which keeps them in their place. They have no moral compass and will stab you in the back as they believe it is for the common good. They thrive on pettiness and would love to be in charge. They are facilitators in your local council. They are the foot soldiers of sustainability and think the world should do as they do. Why are you so full of hate? I suppose you voted Trump. I suppose you think Brexit's a bad idea. The next level are the change agents, those who are parachuted into public office. These are the real useful idiots. They are militant and brainwashed. Their intolerance will quickly surface if you dispute their propaganda narratives. They are careerists and have no morals whatsoever. They are likely to respond with, "I choose not to hear that," or "That's your reality, not mine. I choose not to see it like that," or other totalitarian phrases which actually cause a disconnect in their victims if they are not versed in the change agent parlance. To them, truth is subjective, and they don't want to hear anything that is not part of their implanted word salad. They will use any dirty trick to undermine and make their point. These drones have infiltrated every position in public office. You will not find anyone in your local council or in any position of authority who is not in this group. It is part of their training. I've been studying this for a long time. I've actually come across these people. There's one in Waltham Forest where I used to live. He's called Clyde Lokes. He's now inflicting this sustainability and the citizens' assemblies and all the rest of this crap in Oxford. But really he's got his dream come true. Totalitarianism has been brought in on the back of a seasonal flu virus which has been manufactured. These people love totalitarianism because they are sucking on the breast of the New World Order, or they think they are. They think they are. The problem these people will have is that they don't realise that they're dispensable. As soon as they have fulfilled their purpose or step out of line in any way whatsoever, they will be dealt with and they will be gone. So they don't know that. Useful idiots. Yeah, these drones have infiltrated every position in public office. Every single public official is one of these people now. And that is absolutely apparent when you look at how the police have been acting and what these change agent propagandists within the police force have been spouting on the media. It's a word salad, and it's been implanted into their not so active and tiny, minuscule, degraded brains. The third group can be classed under the 2000 Terrorism Act. These are basically the equivalent of demons. They can be classed under the 2000 Terrorism Act and are extremely dangerous. They are domestic terrorists. These agents of change are trained under the banners of political and identity groups. They are above the law and they know it. They can go as far as driving their victims to suicide by ceaseless harassment. Everything they say is a reversal of the truth. Their tactics are limited, but in most cases, effective. Not in all cases. I've had a lot of success against these subversive criminals. But they will take their toll on you. They will attack you relentlessly. They will try to destroy your reputation. They are above the law and the police facilitate them. They call it community policing. They degrade their victims in the eyes of the public and are truly possessed by evil. They are assigned projects to take over organisations and steal property on the back of it being for the interests of the greater good, the community. They always masquerade under the banner of our community. They don't have a community, though. They're terrorists. They're assassins. Well, assassins are actually more honourable than terrorists, but yeah, maybe we need truth assassins. They're trying to assassinate truth, so become the truth assassin. They are oh dear. They are communitarian terrorists. So I'm a bit blocked up here. They can be defeated if the victim uses strategy and waits for them to exhaust their limited armoury. There are remedies still built into law. There are remedies in law to thwart their takeovers. Equity will not allow a statute to be used as a cloak for fraud. That's a legal maxim. Very, very useful one. But ignorance of the law is no excuse. So you have to use the law to enforce the common good, the real common good, back on these third level change agents, these demonic entities. They can be defeated. Yes, they can. There are remedies. They will stop at nothing and use psychological warfare, often to induce suicidal thoughts and project hatred at their victims, who are usually well-respected people in a local community, usually people who are equitable and honest. They hate honesty. That's why they're demonic. Equity, real equality. Yes, equity, real equality and honesty are not part of the new system, and it cannot operate within these parameters. The natural law and inalienable rights are alien to them and their enemy. Inalienable rights, rights which cannot be leaned. Some people keep telling me that it's inalienable. No, it's not. It's inalienable. Inalienable, a right which cannot be leaned. A right which cannot have a debt enforced on it. A right which is absolute. A right which is the basis of natural law is inalienable. It cannot be taken away. It cannot have any indebtedness to society. It is your right, and that's what they hate. These demonic creatures hate inalienable rights. They want to take away all your rights and put you in the hive, and that's how it works. So, in conclusion, the big society kicked the door open in 2010. Now its agents want to kick your door down, and they're coming for you. The question is, will you let them in? That's it for tonight. I think that was quite a heavy kind of show, but I really do think it's time to start getting into the meat and potatoes of what these people are really about. I've been talking about it for years, and do go back into the back catalogue. Do help me out on Patreon. I'm going to be putting more stuff up there. It's a full-time job for me, this, and I love doing it. I've never been more focused on what I'm doing than now, and it's really starting to get out there. We've got friends all over the world. Yeah, the global community, but this is a global community of thinking people. This is a global community of people who actually can effect real change, to use the terminology of the agents who are trying to subvert reality. So do join me on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Republic Broadcasting Network. And on Wednesdays, our live stream on YouTube, while it's still there, at 9 p.m. And of course, Sundays at 9 p.m. on good old Spreaker. Please subscribe to us on BitChute. Please subscribe to us on Spreaker. And yes, look at what we're doing on Patreon. I'm going to be uploading a lot more stuff on there. I've had to have a few weeks off that because I've had so much on. But yes, our film, The Heretics of London, The Smithfield Martyrs, is in production, and everyone who helps us out and helps us on Patreon will get a copy of the film, invited to the screenings, and lots of other things too. Because I do want to keep this idea of history, real history, alive. And there are people out there who are going to help, which is fascinating. I want to be able to put together a little archive for future generations, because history is being rewritten. And that period of the 1500s is very relevant to what is going on now. Those people accused of heresy are those people of today who are now being accused of hate speak for telling the truth. So, heretic means literally able to choose. So, for those who are able to choose, thanks for listening, and I'll be back during the week. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks very much. Join me, Mark Windows, for Windows on the World live every Sunday 9 to 11 p.m. GMT. Check out our archive and program stream at windowsontheworld.net.